Welcome to this new episode of In Charge of Your Career. Today with Susanne from Point to Rise account, we wanted to discuss lessons learned from 2020-2021, from the past season, the past 18 months actually, if I can say. What we've learned about ourselves, about our capabilities, about our passion, about what was driving us, and what we really wanted to achieve, and how we could apply that into growing and rising into actually just a better version of ourselves. Hello, Susan. How are you?
I am so good. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. Yeah.
How's the
I'm not
weather for you? Because for us,
actually.
it's horrible.
Oh, horrible? What do you mean it's horrible?
It's just been raining like crazy.
Well, you know what? Europe needs it though.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It just
Weird.
happened to rain when I go out.
Use an umbrella. You know what I have learned with living on the West Coast here for more than 16 years now is that the rain we in Europe, it for me always was a reason for not going out. But when you have
Mm-hmm.
6 months of it, you don't get away with that anymore. So you
True.
adapt and you get the best reindeer there is. So rain or shine, we're now rain is no longer an excuse
Well,
as, oh, it's raining, I can't go outside.
yeah. It's all the environment, right?
Right, exactly. And I learned that with my first child. I was like, oh, it's raining, we can't go outside. And my in-laws were like, seriously, what's gonna happen? He's not gonna melt. And I'm
It's
like,
funny
oh
you
my
say that. I
gosh.
was watching a documentary about a school that had different way of teaching, and they were actually teaching kids to go and play outside when it was raining. Whereas I remember at my
Hmm.
school, it was like, okay, you stay indoors or you stay in
You
the
get
covered
wet.
area.
Yeah.
And so they had boots and protective clothing, and they were like, no, 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 rain or shine or whatever, you go out, you have fun. And the kids were actually had a completely different mindset about the environment. They just, as you said,
Right?
deal with it.
Deal with it. What are we talking about today? I
Actually,
didn't
this,
hear.
how do we learn from what's happening?
Oh, yeah.
That's why I continued on the subject, because for me it's about what's happening to you that you cannot control. Basically, that pandemic and us being quarantined, and then studios reopening or not, performances reopening or not, all of this, most of it we could not control. And how do we
Mm-mm.
learn from that so that we don't feel like we wasted our time, that we feel we're growing, we're learning, and life goes on, but in a positive and upwards way.
Yeah. You
Instead
know,
of, but of course it's up and down and up and down and stale, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm trying to say it's all pink and roses and everything is fine all the time. It's just the general direction has to be up and forward.
yeah, forward, right? Like whatever is back there is going to stay back there, and you can either
Unless your
choose to
objective is behind you, and that's fine.
have that hold you back, or be the lesson for you that you learn from, and maybe make different choices the next time. I I think for me, the pandemic was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it gave me the permission to, if not now, then when? What
Mm-hmm.
else is it going to take for you to get over the things that you need to get over that you actually
Yeah.
know that are in your way right now at this very moment?
Mm-hmm.
If not now, when are you going to take care of that? And for me,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying I understand. It took me a long time to actually say that out loud because I was afraid of the judgment and I understand and I see that it wasn't for everybody the best thing that could have happened. And that doesn't mean it cannot be for me and for others as well, right? Like we all look at what is happening to us from a different perspective and we make whatever we want to out of it.
Yes.
um
Yeah, I agree.
Remember in the beginning so many people like, oh, break, and they just stopped with everything. and
Because
nothing.
we thought it would be temporary and short
Yeah,
term.
of course, of course,
So
of
that's
course.
normal.
Yeah. Yeah. But then let's look at like 3 months into it when the rat races started and nobody knew what else to do anymore because they've done all the painting and dyeing and potting and
Cooking and learning a new
cooking.
instrument,
Yeah,
learning a new
exactly.
language.
Exactly. Like that, where the keeping yourself busy just wasn't enough anymore because there were things that we had to deal with, not only as like as a collective, but as individuals.
Hmm.
If I think at so many dancers that, they had a really, really hard time to just be because that's not what we allow ourselves. We don't stop. If we stop, we're lazy. If we stop, we're doubting ourselves if we're doing enough.
Yeah.
Not maybe everybody, but I'm talking from like what I have seen on
Yeah.
social media, right?
Mm.
Like so how I think for me the lesson is that I don't want to be in that hustle state ever again.
Yeah.
The working, it's not about working long hours, but it's doing something that doesn't fill my cup up anymore.
Yeah.
Being
We
in
had that
situations.
conversation, you and
Yeah,
I, a couple of
yes.
days ago, and I told you I don't want to think about it as like hours or finishing late because sometimes I actually enjoy finishing at 11 and I'm happy with that. But sometimes I feel like, why did I do that to myself? And it's really
Yeah.
a matter, I don't know for you, but for me, it's really a matter of what was I doing until 11? What was the objective? Is that
Mm,
actually a good thing for me on the long term to have done that day?
right, right. And if it's something that you can full-heartedly say that, yes, I actually feel so much better now that it's done, or even while I'm doing it, then please go for it. But you can't tell me that being in a studio for 6 days out of the week, working 8 to 12 hours every day, feels really good and fills your cup because you're not taking any time for yourself, right? And I think the pandemic showed us that in some way or another, artists are so resilient. I mean, they're so resilient. And I don't think we give ourselves credit at all.
No,
Like
no.
we focus on what doesn't work. We focus on what's not good enough. We focus on all the things that are not there yet and that we
And I
want.
don't understand really how the industry became like that because I I wasn't taught ballet this way, and I
Mm,
checked with a few friends, and I'm not the only one. Although, of course, our teachers were really focusing on things that can get better. There was a really healthy
mm,
balance with, okay, this is great, this is good, or with all the work that you've done. Of course, it wasn't said like that, but with all the work that you've done, you reached it. Not now. Like
mm.
all the thing I throw at you for the past 3 weeks was for this moment.
Yeah.
And I feel this balance is getting less and less. It's more, we're just focusing on what needs to be changed, and we're forgetting that this is not a way to motivate people. This is, first of all, not a way to treat people. And this is not a way to achieve excellent results. So, for everything you're trying to do, it's not achieving it. So, why are you continuing with that method? It's not working.
Well, because we're not taking inventory,
Yeah.
because we're not looking at what are the dancers are actually doing, how they're feeling, like what is the actual state of how do you say it, the state of mind, the state
Yeah,
of the
state of mind.
union.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state of the union
What
for.
what are they feeling is very interesting as a question. I was talking to a Broadway musical teacher the other day, and he said exactly what you said. He said, "These kids, they're not taught to tap into their feelings. The question they're used to answering is, what do you think? Not what do
Mm.
you feel?"
Oh
And
wow, this is so good.
Yeah, that stayed, and I've been thinking about it for like a week, and I was thinking, I am sure in the conversation with Susanne that's gonna come up. What do you feel? And he said, it's really strange because if you're an artist and you can't, it's okay that you can't express with words your feelings. I could understand that, especially with dancers, because of if you chose dance, it's probably because you can express that with other things than words. But he said they can't even like tap into the emotions, like find them. And so, what do you want to communicate?
So I had the same a conversation where we actually talked about on a podcast. It was more about we've been taught to do, just
Mm-hmm.
to do, to follow, to do, but not to feel. So when we send these kids and young adults on stage, they just do. They don't feel. And
And that's what we
when
see are missing.
that's what's missing, and that's what's so uncomfortable. That's why it also is hard for dancers to actually use their voice. Um, this is why the pandemic, that time out, was so hard because, yes, these feelings come up, especially when you stop
Yeah.
doing.
And it was
And when,
so overwhelming because it was so
yeah,
much and you're not used to
mhm.
embracing it.
And you can't put any descriptions behind it because you don't know what it is. You don't have words for it. You don't
Mm.
have the awareness. You don't have the vocabulary. Um, and that's why it is so dangerous when we teach just to do and not to feel.
Yeah.
We can feel while we're doing it, and it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And I think that that is definitely something that some people have taken out of the pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
and are applying, and it's working really well. And even though here's my fear is that this was a nice interlude and it was uncomfortable to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just going to go back to my old ways, not remembering, because that is much
Yes.
easier,
Yeah. Yes.
because it's going to be very uncomfortable, but particularly in the beginning when, everybody wants to, I don't know, have you do all the things and be in shape
Mm-mm.
and like do a show in 3 weeks
It's
after.
like the New Year resolutions. You come with
Yeah,
really good intentions and then you're sucked in the routine. So
ex
before we move on in that topic, because I think it would be a good transition, I actually asked a couple of friends who are dancers to do what you call an inventory to check what they think they've learned, what they've observed. They all use different terms. And so, if you don't mind, I wanted to share a couple of them because I found them
oh,
quite
do yeah.
interesting. And that might also give inspiration and, that could help some people who are thinking, actually, what did I learn? Because
Mm.
sometimes I'm like that. I'm like, actually, I don't know. Maybe I learned nothing. But when I hear other stories, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that. So here's a few that I noted that I found were interesting. I really want to dance professionally. I don't want to dance professionally.
Oh,
Coming from someone who went for doing another job and she's happy. And
perfect.
that's okay.
Awesome. I love it.
I have other center of interest than ballet. I can improve in my dancing without being in the studio 8 hours a day.
Mm.
I am resourceful. I love this one. Family and friends are important for my well-being in life. I don't have to sacrifice it all for ballet. There are ways to make it work.
Beautiful.
It's the environment, stupid. That's a reference to a book I was reading with a friend when it's a biologist who's studying some cells, and at some point the cells go bad, and his master tells him it's the environment, it's not the cells. So my friend was telling me it's the environment, stupid, as a reference to say that he has understood that the environment he works within changes the way he thinks, behave, and feel.
Mhm.
So then he said, I dance better when I'm happy. I can invest in myself. I don't need to wait for someone else to enroll me in a course, catch me in a role, or offer me to dance in a gala. I can lead that.
I think I love that the most so far. Yeah.
Mental coaching is not for the weak. Hiring a coach was the best decision of my life. I feel stronger than
Woohoo!
ever. Yeah.
Shout out to whoever that was.
Curiosity, actually, well, a couple of people told me that. Curiosity, learning about my body, discovering other artistic forms made me a better dancer than years focusing on feet and arabesque lines.
Yay.
That was just a sample of the one that I found were eye-opening and positive, because there were a couple of negative ones, but
Well, and that's okay too, right? Like,
yeah,
it
but they
just,
can be reframed into something positive, and I think
oh,
that's
always.
that's the most important. 'Cause, you know, you were talking about the fact that for you it was the best thing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will say, "Well, for me it wasn't."
Mm.
But you said something very interesting just after. You said, "What can you learn from it, even if it was a horrible time for you? How did it help you grow?" And that's for me reframing into something positive instead of dwelling into the suffering, the maybe the depression that you had to go through, the difficulties. I'm pretty sure a lot of people went through financial difficulties, emotional difficulties, but what did you learn from that that will help you in the future? For example, if you manage to go through that, you're resourceful. You know, you're stronger than you thought. You have good friends, maybe you have a family that is supporting you. Maybe you actually found out your
Exactly.
family is not supporting you and you learn
At
from
all.
that. And now you can ask someone else. That's also something that is hard at the moment, but helps you. I'm talking for myself here. Sometimes you discover someone was not your friend.
Yeah,
It hurts.
you do. It
But you
hurts.
know
Yeah.
what?
You live.
There's someone else.
Exactly. It just means you're making room for more, right? Um, I I think that if you have a growth mindset, you can look at anything that comes your way and find a great added
Yeah.
in it. Yeah. I really truly believe so because boy, did I been delivered some beautiful disguised shit sandwiches. And they were still beautiful if I really took the time to unpack them and remove what wasn't working,
Yeah,
you
you and
know?
I were the same on that.
Yeah, and that's and doesn't that mindset doesn't come overnight because we are wired to see the bad in everything to survive, right? So we're alert at any given moment. It takes willingness and it takes trust in yourself that, hey, when I look at this problem from a different perspective, it actually will bring solutions
Yes.
and it will make help me and others move through it so much faster.
Yes.
Even when I am not in charge and I can control it. So what
But it
can I
takes
do to make it
practice.
work? Oh yeah. And I think
100%.
the very best question, but we also say it's so think it is so complicated, but it's not. It's very easy.
Mhm.
Could be very easy if we were allow ourselves to do so. Meaning a very simple question can change everything. How you look at things. You know, what if this would be easy? What if this
Mhm.
would be fun? That changes everything. That changes your entire mental state and state of like even the chemistry in your body and how you look at things. So that's definitely something that I have learned to always ask that question when things don't go the way I want them to go.
Mhm.
And that's definitely something that I'm taking on. I have sticky notes everywhere that say, what if
Yeah,
this
you
would be
have to
easy?
constantly remind yourself of that mindset. I remember that from time to time I just have to tell myself, "Hey, where are you? Like, what are you doing to yourself? This is not helpful." You can continue thinking like that negatively, thinking about all the bad thing that can happen, thinking about all the bad thing that happened, which is even worse.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
like for me, it's hard to let go sometimes. But you know, I just have to remind myself, okay, how is that helpful? It's not. What do you want? And I have all my goals. And I'm like, you're in charge of how you feel. Doesn't mean it happens just like that, but
Mm-mm.
you can make it happen by telling yourself, I want to be happy, and I can be happy if I allow myself to be happy. But if I allow myself to be just miserable, that's all that I'm gonna get.
And I don't know if that was, I think it's such an easy concept, isn't it? Such an easy
It
concept,
is, but you have to
truly.
really believe in it. I mean, you've met me. I was probably quite quite at the bottom of one of those slides, and I was just willing to believe there's good things coming up. And you and I, we've chatted for the past few months, and I had some calls that came from nowhere, and there was great opportunities, and I tried a few projects, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, and I don't think it's magic. It's just you're allowing yourself to see the opportunity when you allow yourself to believe that good things can come your way. Because if you always think that bad things are coming your way, your mind is just focused on those bad things.
And
It's
that's all
one
you
of
see.
the communication model that we know about how we perceive our environment. We receive like 2 million information in, I don't remember, a minute or second or whatever. It's like a lot of information, and our brain have to filter everything that we see. We have to filter it. Who see their nose when we're watching? We don't. We delete it. So when you're only thinking, oh, bad things will happen, I'm so unlucky, and everything is horrible, then you're only seeing that. You're only focusing on that. You can make the test and think about, like, I used to do that with my brother when we were kids. Think about sports, beautiful cars, like Ferraris, Porsche, and things like that. And suddenly you see them everywhere.
Because it's like, so the technical name, or the
It's
scientifically
just a
name, is
filter.
a reticular activating system. It is
Yeah.
literally the filter, because otherwise we would be so overwhelmed and would be unable to make any decisions or concentrate or do anything if that filter wouldn't be there. So putting on and choosing whatever colored filter you want to see the world through today is something that anybody can do. And that's why awareness is so important. This is why psychology, like basic psychology, is so important for everyone to know.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
have to be a doctor, you don't have to practice. It's just
There's a lot of
simple.
resources out there.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah. I
tons. Just
do want to
open
put
up
a
YouTube.
I,
YouTube.
I,
And can I
I don't want
finish?
to rain on your parade. I just want to put a slight caveat, because you said everybody can use those filters. Although, because I'm working on a project for neurodiversity,
Mhm.
although if you are neurodivergent and you are, let's say, for example, on the autism spectrum, it can be a little bit harder,
Okay,
close to very
can be
difficult.
harder.
And that's why it's important to understand those filters, because that's exactly what you said. Otherwise, you're overwhelmed. And if you're neurodivergent, you're actually overwhelmed because your filters are working slightly differently, or sometimes not very well. And that's where you get overwhelmed. And that's important to understand. And I really want to emphasize that I really love your message. I don't want to kill it at all, because all of this makes sense suddenly when you understand that. It's not magic. It's not something out of nowhere. Is just understanding how we are built, how we're created, how we manage our information.
How we
And so,
work, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And so
just like
when those filters work very well, you can take them to your advantage. When they don't, this is when it gets difficult in life.
difficult. And then there are ways to manage that difficultiness as well,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Um, Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually really insightful. I didn't know that the filters are off with that
They're
spectrum.
often,
So
that's why,
that's awesome. Yeah.
often we say that autistic people have no filters. Like, they say everything that comes to their mind. Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Mm, yeah, you do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you know me.
so, well, let's conclude and wrap up, because we've been
Yes. Tie ball.
tied a bow.
A
We
bow.
are
A bow.
tying the bow.
I still don't know how to say bow.
Don't worry.
It's all right.
Foreigners speaking English. Um, I would say, you can look at the last 18 months as the biggest disaster of your life and look at all the things that you missed out on and, another year shaved off your career that you didn't get. Or you can take it as something invaluable, because when did you ever get a break like this where you had the time to sit down and truly understand who and what you are, and understanding how you want to move forward? Because I feel like when we're working in our business all the time, over and over and over again, and
Mm-hmm.
actually we're going to talk about that tomorrow,
Yeah.
it is really hard to take that approach from up here and to
Mm-hmm.
see, hey, what's actually working and what isn't working, and how can I adjust? And I think that that time that we've had was time to look from up above and to look, hey, is this actually for me? Is this working? Am I truly happy? Yeah, that's
Definitely. I would invite everyone to take a pen and a piece of paper or their phone and a note
yeah.
and a note app, and to really look at what happened in the past few months and note it down. First, note it down with absolutely no filter. Just write it. And then look at it and ask yourself for each thing that you write down, how can you turn this into something that is helpful for you? What have you learned out of it? What can you apply? What can you do differently next time? And
I
use
love it.
that for your new year resolutions.
Because you can start your year at any given day. Yeah, you can
Every
start
day is a new
300
year.
every day is a new year. That's right. You don't have to wait until December 31st. That's right. Hey, do you want to talk about how to schedule and that
I'd
tomorrow, or
love
should we?
to.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm really good at scheduling. I just don't follow through.
Okay, so we can talk about that
Okay. So I, I,
because,
I'll, I'll talk about scheduling, and then you help me
well,
follow through.
yeah, yeah, sure. I can share the journey that I'm on when it comes to scheduling and how I now understand how important it actually is. So why don't you guys, thank you for being here, everybody. Join us tomorrow, same time, on the Point to
On
Rise
Point
account,
Rise account.
and we are going to talk about maximizing our time and capabilities and availability.
Availability. Love this word.
Yeah. Okay.
See you
Mwah.
tomorrow. Thank you,
See you
everyone.
tomorrow.